You're listening to a podcast appearing on the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
This is the weekly Firecast, episode 34. Interview with Adam Fehr of Endorphin Farms.
Strap yourselves in. It's time for the weekly Firecast. This is the podcast for all foodies, those who love food that is cooked over a fire or feels like fire in your mouth. If you love spice, smoke, sauce, and all things savory, this is the show for you. And now, here's your host, chili head and barbecuer, Scott Roberts.
Chili heads, hot sauce fans, and barbecue freaks, I bid you all welcome. Again, I am your host, Scott Roberts, blogger and columnist for Chili Pepper Magazine, joining you for the next hour or so, and I'm psyched to bring you yet another stellar episode. If you're a fledgling maker of hot sauce or barbecue sauce, you'll definitely want to take notice as I chat with Adam Fehr of Endorphin Farms in my weekly Fire Talkers interview. Now, if you've never heard of them, Endorphin Farms is a Florida-based co-packer of sauces. So I ask Adam all sorts of questions that pertain to using a co-packer and having someone make and bottle your product. And he's an absolute treasure trove of knowledge when it comes to that topic, so don't miss out on that if you're interested in any aspect of the condiment industry. And on a related note, I also wanted to mention that you might also want to take a look back at episode 13 of the Weekly Firecast, where I speak to Brian Henderson of bbqsaucereviews.com. Now, Brian wrote an ebook titled How to Market Your Barbecue Sauce. So if you're looking to expand your small company out of your kitchen, be sure to listen back at that episode to get more details on how to get that book. And elsewhere in this episode, in the Ken's Fiery World segment, blogger and reviewer Ken Alexander discusses what he thinks are the top 10 best hot sauces for beginners to try. He takes 5 nationally known brands and adds 5 very worthy craft makers' sauces that he feels belongs in every chili head's refrigerator or cupboard. And of course, I have to throw in a few of my favorites as well, so it's a must-listen-to conversation between Ken and I. And then I also have another quick and simple foodie tip of the week. And now for a smattering of housekeeping notes. And if you haven't heard a million times by now, the Weekly Firecast is a part of the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network. I just wanted to remind everybody that you can get hooked up with some great listening content that includes television, feature films, travel, food, and more. You can access and subscribe to all of that over at the Two Guys Talking website at the numeral 2guystalking.com. And also, if you haven't seen it, the Weekly Firecast, yes, has recently gotten its own standalone website. It's not just part of my main blog, scottrobertsweb.com anymore. So now it's easier to subscribe and keep track of all the many episodes I produced over the months. So don't miss out on listening to some great guests as it pertains to topics on hot sauce, barbecue, and chili peppers. You can see all of that over at weeklyfirecast.com. And while you're over at the new Weekly Firecast website, jump on over to the brand spanking new contact page. I'd love to hear from everybody, whether you just want to jot down a quick note saying hello, if you have suggestions for topics and guests, or even have some constructive criticism about the show. Fill out the super simple web form over at weeklyfirecast.com and let me know what's on your mind. Anyway, that's enough of me gabbing. Let's go ahead and get to this episode's segments here on the Weekly Firecast, part of the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
And now, the Foodie Tip of the Week.
My Foodie Tip of the Week might be considered to be maybe a little devious or sneaky by some of you. This is one of my tips on how to get your loved ones, your non-chili head people, maybe your spouse, maybe your children, to be slowly acclimated to the heat of chili peppers. And it's very simple. Just get some ground chili powder. Now, if I would not advocate, getting the very hottest chili peppers, habaneros, bucholokias, Trinidad scorpions for this little trick. Some at a lesser heat, get some ground jalapeno, maybe even some cayenne. And then with your recipes, and in particular things like Mexican, put just a little tiny pinch of that chili pepper powder into whatever it is you're cooking, say like taco seasoning. Be sure to mix it very, very well so that all that heat isn't, clump or kind of consolidated in one little tiny area. And of course, your loved ones who really don't like heat, you don't want to give them a big surprise in their mouth. But the thing is to do that. And over the months and years, their tolerance for the heat of chili peppers will start to rise. And it's a lot easier way to kind of break them into the whole world of spicy foods by doing that, instead of, bugging them, why don't you use this hot sauce or that sauce? And after a while, they will come to expect that spiciness out of their foods, and they will be a chili head for life.
And now, Ken's Fiery World.
And once again, we're talking with chili head blogger and reviewer Ken Alexander. How is everything going on with you?
Hey, Scott, how you doing tonight?
Oh, great.
So I think tonight we're going to talk when we bounce some ideas out and talking about sauces for beginners. And so I think the conclusion was we're going to talk about top 10 sauces for beginners.
Yeah. You know what? This is probably one of the questions we as chili head reviewers and bloggers and people who are just around hot sauces a lot, we get this kind of question all the time. And I'm sure you get people saying, oh, I love Dave's Insanity. I love Blair's. I love fill in the blank with whatever it is, they can find in the store.
Right.
What's the next level? What else is out there that's good?
I get that question a lot as well. Like, what's your favorite what's your favorite hot sauce? Well, I kind of give them this blank stare because I've got lots of favorites for different purposes. I tell them I'm turning into kind of a sauce snob because I've got particular sauces that I use for certain things. Mm-hmm. It's like I love Cajuan's Oaxacan sauce for Mexican food, et cetera, et cetera. I've got, just a whole bunch of different favorites and a bunch of them. So my disclaimer in this is, even if a sauce wasn't a top 10 favorite sauce list for me, this is just, I kind of took a little different approach is, in the top 10, the first 5, and it's really in not the order of heat or anything else, I picked 5 sauces that anybody in the country could find in a grocery store.
Oh, okay.
Most major grocery stores. And kind of ranked it as far as a different style of sauce for a different style of food, not necessarily in escalating heat value. And then what I did is I paired them with 5 sauces that I enjoy from the small batch chili head community, that is the more specialty sauces. So if somebody's interested in getting into hot sauce and exploring their spicy side, how to get into it easily, and then how to kind of take it to the next level in exploring the more independent brands, the more esoteric brands that we enjoy as chili heads.
Gotcha. So what would you start off with as far as a nationally known, nationally available hot sauce that's great for beginners?
Okay, I can hear the chili head community groaning as I say the word Tabasco.
And I will groan.
I know, and the drum thump and the whole thing. I am from South Louisiana, so, Tabasco is everywhere here. And I used to live in New Iberia. I think I've said that on another segment. So I live near Avery Island. But if somebody has not ventured into hot sauce, it is the benchmark, whether we like it or not. That simple vinegar, salt, cayenne-based Tabasco sauce is the quintessential sauce that everybody thinks about.
Yeah, and you know what? I do have to give them props and respect. I mean, they are one of the big heavy hitters in the industry for over 100 years, so I give them my respect.
You have to. They're distributed worldwide. There's not a grocery store or a convenience store on the planet that you can't find a bottle of Tabasco sauce. Mm-hmm. So, if I'm telling somebody that's not really ventured and tried it, and I do run into people that they've been afraid that it's too hot. And so I say, try, that's the first one. It's that simple vinegar-based Louisiana-style sauce. Get a bottle of Tabasco. That's the benchmark. Because when I talk to people about sauces and they're trying to learn, most people will recognize Tabasco sauce, and so it's an easy benchmark. Saying, okay, Tabasco sauce, if you're familiar with it, is roughly 2,500 Scovilles, heat units. And so then they can get a relative feel for the different peppers, the different heats, the different sauces, those things, and they can wrap their brains around it. So Tabasco is number 1.
Okay, and what else would you suggest that's available everywhere?
Number two, for a Mexican, something that's a little different, but is becoming very prevalent because of the increase in the Hispanic community and population in the United States, is Valentino sauce. And I say to get an extra heat, I do say this to if you want more heat, something that's a simple sauce is their Triple X. Sauce. It's their black label sauce. So, and it's cheap. It's a couple of $3 a bottle, and it's a good sized bottle. And it's really good with Mexican or with, it's kind of a general hot sauce, which is how the Hispanic community uses it. So that's number two for me, is to go from Tabasco to Valentino. Again, inexpensive, not absolutely rock your socks off hot, and available almost anywhere in the country these days. So number three for me is, if you want to first foray into an Asian sauce, is tiger sauce.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, it's a different flavored sauce. It's got an Asian, it's kind of got a sweet, spicy thing going on with it. It's got an Asian flair. So if you want an entry foray into Asian sauces, it's versatile. And then last on the first five is sriracha sauce, the Hoi Fong rooster sauce.
And you know what? Just like Tabasco, my personal preference, I'm not a big fan of that sauce.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
I'm not, no.
Is it sriracha sauce in general or that brand?
You know what? In general, it's tolerable. It's not something I would use on a daily basis. I think there are several kind of Asian sauces that are similar in tone, but I'm not a big fan of that kind of harsh, I don't know what it is, the combination of the garlic and the salt. It gives it almost like a horseradish tone to it.
It does. But I love horseradish. And so I'm a sriracha sauce fan. So for that Southeast Asian or that kind of ketchup alternative, that's what I would steer people to, is say, okay, try sriracha to see if it's something on a tomato base, kind of, that almost appears like that to me, though I know it's not, but kind of that ketchup alternative. I point them to sriracha sauce and the Hoi Fong brand of sriracha sauce.
Yeah, it has just hordes of fans out there, and that's becoming very nationally available.
It does. Now, when they moving into, then it says, okay, now that you've got that down, here are five products, not necessarily my favorites, even though I like all of these that I'm going to mention, that I feel have some equivalency to what, except for the sriracha, I couldn't find, I had a hard time with that one. But so I kind of veered off a little bit from that. But, for the cayenne base, Born to Hula's cayenne sauce is one of the smoothest, really well-flavored cayenne sauces that I find out there. And I think it would be a great entry specialty cayenne sauce for somebody who's only used Tabasco sauce.
Excellent choice. And you know what? It was probably one of a couple sauces I was kind of hoping you would mention. And yeah, Born to Hula, cayenne, excellent stuff.
Yeah. The other one that I forgot one up at the top is, and this is another groaner, okay?
Okay.
So I'll back up a minute. Frank's Red Hot is the original buffalo wing sauce. Right? Mm-hmm. Frank's Red Hot and butter. And so I put that on that list if somebody wants to play with buffalo wings. I said, well, do the Frank's thing. It's cheap. It's a couple bucks a bottle. I don't really care for it, but it started the whole wing thing back in Buffalo, New York. Put some butter with it and have fun. So when you go to, I struggled with this one because there's so many out there, but I think DEF CON probably for wing sauces, just they're so well recognized and awarded in the industry for their wing sauces that I think that and they've got them in varying degrees of heat. So I think that would be a great entry level specialty wing sauce for someone.
And yeah, they have it in what's called defense condition 3, 2, 1. 3 starts off as the mildest. 1 is the hottest of the regular line. I mean, DEF CON has hotter ones than that. I would say if you can take the heat, 2 is a very good compromise and overall the best flavor.
Okay, great. Well, we're so far we're batting 1,000, kind of matching up. So when it comes to Mexican, I mentioned Valentino's Triple X on the front end. I go to Cajon's for that, to his Oaxacan line and his variations of that Oaxacan line. He's got Oaxacan Ghost. He's got the regular Oaxacan, which, while not very hot, is one of my probably the favorite Mexican sauce for me. Mm-hmm. I absolutely love that sauce.
You have the Quetzalcoatl, very hard to pronounce, very hard to spell.
Yes, yes, it is very hard to pronounce and spell. I think it's either Mayan or Aztec, isn't it? The
Yeah,
Quetzalcoatl.
some Mesoamerican term. I forget exactly what it means.
Yeah, it's one. It's I think it's Aztec maybe. But and I forgot what it meant too. But anyway, that line of that Mexican sauce line that Cajun has is hard for me. It's hard to beat. I mean, there's other comparables. There's other sauces that are out there that do well in the Mexican genre, but I think he's got that flavor profile down to just an art form for me for the Mexican styles. So, and the Cajuns has such a great variety. I could point people to any number of his sauces for various needs for somebody that's kind of wanting a one-stop for a specialty sauce that's there. What would be yours for Mexican?
Mexican, I was kind of going to give my 2 cents at the end of the segment. For the nationally known brands, I would mention Cholula.
Yeah.
It's available a lot of places. It has a thicker, more robust flavor. It's not that kind of harsh vinegar. It has a little bit more of a peppery taste. And then also El Yucateco. They have several good sauces, and the one I love in particular is their habanero sauce.
You're exactly right, and I had forgotten about El Yucateco, and I have some of that at home. And they do, and they have different They have different levels. They have a single X up to a triple X habanero, and they have a green and a red. I love their green sauce.
Great stuff.
Yeah, it really is. So good choices. Good choices. Now, when we get to Asian sauces, for me, and this is my favorite. I will say this straight up. My absolute favorite Asian sauce out there is Captain Tom's Thai Monkey.
Brother, you and I totally agree on that. That is in my top 10 favorite hot sauces.
As in mine.
Go ahead and explain the flavor, if you could explain the magnificence of it.
Oh my gosh, it is just, I hear little angels and harps in the background, or, maybe it's Chinese harps or lyres or something. Tom and Nancy, I don't know if Nancy plays or it's all Tom's brain work that comes up with these flavor profiles, but it's kind of like a soy teriyaki hoisin sauce on crack.
With a little bit of peanut butter in there.
It is just a touch. So it's got a little Thai piece that for the Thai monkey, of course, it's got that peanutty Thai piece to it, but it is just the money. I can't have stir fry in my house without putting, Thai monkey on it. And when I run out, I have withdrawals. I mean, I buy that sauce and the Oaxacan sauce in 3-packs. I buy at least 3 bottles at a time.
I'm the same way. It's like,
yeah.
I think that I've run out completely. My heart starts racing. Oh no, what am I going to do? And then big relief. It's like, oh, there's another whole bottle on one of your hot sauce shelves, Scott. The world is okay.
Oh, I know. Yes. And I actually had gotten to where I kind of stashed a bottle back. So, so when I thought I was out, I really wasn't, it's kind of that little stash that you have. So, and then I'll mention another one of Tom's products. Captain Tom's products is his Louisiana sauce with the alligator on the front. His jalapeno sauce, very good low-end heat sauce that I would put up a little different feel than the Tabasco, but it's in the same line. That I would put with the Born to Hula cayenne sauce. I'd put Captain Tom's Louisiana sauce as well. And I think it won a Golden Chili award, not this past year, but the year before. So it's another one I really like. I didn't have a pickup for the sriracha sauce. And so, if somebody wants to get into adding more heat to their food and changing the flavor and getting a spicier flavor profile, and they're starting to venture out, is go back to one of the powders or rubs. I keep coming back to Tim Bader volcanic peppers, I guess, because I have probably 10 of his products on my shelf, and they're just so versatile. I use them in everything. When I don't want to sauce in something, I'll put yellow boot jolokia in all my vegetables. It's just a standard shake in my vegetables. His new hot onion and garlic. So it's in the volcano dust, but some people don't like the chipotle-ish things. And so then I steer them to just his regular pepper powders. So, I would give a suggestion, which I have to people, saying, hey, pick up some of it, order some of this and you can add it to other, you can add it to ketchup, you can add it to mustard, you can add it to whatever to spice up your own products in your refrigerator, and then start your heat tolerance and flavors by playing with different peppers in standard products that you normally use.
Well, in addition to those, as far as these specialty sauces, you batted 1,000, like you said. Total agreement on those. A couple more that I like. One is one of my favorite products that I came across last year is Smoke Canyon Gourmet Smoke Roasted Jalapeno Sauce. It is such a unique and earthy and roasted flavor of jalapenos.
Oh.
Doesn't have a whole lot of heat, but both me and Brian Mayer of Hot Sauce Daily gave it 5 stars. It was one of our favorite sauces of last year. That's something everyone should definitely look out for.
And that is not, and who is that again, Scott? Because I have not tried that sauce.
A company called Smoke Canyon.
Smoke Canyon.
Yeah, actually out of Missouri. I believe a couple of hours southwest of St. Louis.
Okay, I will definitely look them up and give that a whirl, because that is that would be a new sauce for me. Ooh, what else? I'm intrigued. What else you got?
Oh, I have a bunch. One is made by Peppers, and it's called Georgia Peach and Vidalia Onion Hot Sauce.
Okay.
And this one is so hard to classify. It's a very, very mild sauce. So if anybody's listening to this has a spouse, has a family member who doesn't like things that are hot, this will probably win them over. It has traits of a hot sauce, traits of a barbecue sauce, and traits of a steak sauce. But it has a very, very sweet upfront flavor from the peaches. The onions just provide it depth, and it is amazing on tacos.
Wow. Okay. And the name of that company again?
Well, you can actually go to peppers.com and order it that way.
So it's from Peppers.
Peppers,
It's a pepper sauce.
Yeah. So
Okay.
It comes with like a red velvet top with a gold rubber band thing around the top of the bottle. Looks very good as a gift. It's a great gift idea, actually, for those who are just getting into hot sauces. It almost looks like, here you go. Here's a Christmas present all wrapped up for you. But the sauce is just stellar.
That's great. And it's kind of a sidebar to that. You mentioned Peppers. That's a really good website for somebody that wants to look for a bunch of different types of sauces without going and paying shipping for a bunch of different companies. That Peppers distributes sauces for a lot of different people. Mm-hmm. So and sells, and that's a great one-stop kind of place to go. And if you order more than $75, you get free shipping.
Great deal. Great deal. One more I wanted to mention was Mike and Diane Gourmet Kitchen Ring of Fire Habanero Hot Sauce.
What?
Now, this one might be a little spicy for the beginners.
Okay.
But it's definitely flavor-wise something you should look into. I mean, are you familiar with it?
No, I'm not. You've hit 1,000, batted 1,000 on sauces that I have not tried.
Oh, you should try Ring of Fire. It is one of, I think, the best hot sauces of all time. It has such a robust, savory flavor profile. It contains tomatoes, garlic, herbs, and spices, in addition to, I think there's serranos, in addition to the habaneros.
Oh, wow. I love serrano peppers.
The whole flavor profile, if you had to classify it as something, is almost Italian-like. It is great with Italian food. Matter of fact, wow. One of the big foods up here in St. Louis is toasted ravioli. We usually dip the toasted ravioli in marinara sauce. I now dip it in Ring of Fire sauce. It works like that. Obviously, I'm accustomed to the heat, but it's such a wonderful flavor. I encourage everyone to go to, the website is mikeanddianes.com to get that.
mikeanddianes.com. I will definitely try that out. You know, another one that I use in Italian food is Tom's Royd Rippin sauce, his roasted pepper.
Great sauce there.
His roasted pepper sauce, man, that sauce is in my top lineup of sauces. It's just so rich and flavorful, and it's roasted just to the right level where it's not bitter, doesn't have a carbony kind of, it's just exquisite, very gourmet in quality. I talked about it in my blog, actually. I did a write-up on Tom's company and mentioned that sauce specifically. I kind of highlighted 3 of his lineup of sauces that's there, and that was one of them for me.
Of course, everybody listening could go over to fieryworld.com and check that out.
Great. Yes, they can. So anyway, for the beginner, like I said, 5 off-the-shelf, easy products to kind of get your taste buds going for different flavors and different sets. And then, again, 5 of the more specialty brands that I've gravitated to, and that's pretty much all I use anymore. I use very few off-the-shelf, regular, national store brand sauces anymore. And just encourage them to have fun and play, and keep a glass of milk handy if it's a little too hot for you.
Exactly. And just for the benefit of everybody, I'm going to go ahead and list all these sauces in the show notes. I mean, we give out all kinds of ideas. I'm sure we can continue to talk for 20 minutes and talk about sauce after sauce, but that is a very, very good sampling right there, which everybody could try out.
Great. Sounds like a plan. I know we spent a lot of time on this in this segment. I hope folks have had some fun with it and value. And for those that aren't the spicy food chili head aficionados, like we seem to be, that they'll jump right on in and join the club.
Excellent. And, the chili head community is growing by leaps and bounds, and we welcome everybody.
Yes, we do. And as I tell everybody out there, Scott, those ladies and gentlemen, just remember it always is a fiery world.
Well, thanks a lot, Ken. Appreciate it.
All right. Appreciate you, Scott. Talk to you next time.
Okay. Bye-bye. And we'll be back after these messages, so stick around.
Hi, this is David Carete, host of the Fangbanger Podcast. Don't forget to check out the Two Guys Talking perspective review of Die Hard over at twoguystalking.com/Die Hard. That's the number 2, guystalking.com/Die Hard.
Two Guys Talking is proud to be using Heil Fin microphones inside their podcast studios in St. Charles, Missouri, just outside St. Louis. Fin mics from Heil Sound aren't just providing great audio quality, they're fun. With glistening blue LEDs in each, they are true technological centerpieces and help Two Guys Talking make the mark inside the podcast industry. Are you familiar with Heil microphones? Check out all the details now at heilsound.com. That's HEIL sound.com. And learn why Two Guys Talking uses and succeeds with the best microphone technology. Heil Sound, laying down the best audio tracks at the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
Wouldn't it be cool if advertising for your food or barbecue-related company could last forever? It can with perpetual advertising. Here's how it works. Unlike TV or radio ads, where every instance the ads are broadcast are only played once and lost forever, perpetual advertising, on the other hand, can have repeat exposure and replayability for weeks, months, and even years after they're inserted in a weekly Firecast podcast. So, even if a podcast is a few months or even a few years old, your ads will still be impactful to repeat listeners as well as new listeners who download and listen to the show. This gives your advertising dollar the most bang for the buck. You can find out more about perpetual advertising sponsorship opportunities by filling out the simple web form at twoguystalking.com/Firecast. That's the numeral 2, guystalking.com/Firecast.
Hey, Dexter Podcast fans. We've had a ton of feedback about our podcast efforts and wanted to invite you to the newest piece of the Two Guys Talking experience, Two Guys Talking TV. That's right. Now you can watch us live as we record all of our podcasts. It's all available live via the web right now. Get literally under the hood with Two Guys Talking as we edit down podcasts, punch out great custom website work, custom cartooning, and a ton more. It's never been easier to enjoy the creation process and to share and revel with all the cool behind-the-scenes fun with Two Guys Talking TV. Check it out now at twoguystalking.com/TV. We look forward to interacting with you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon via Two Guys Talking TV.
And we're back with more of the weekly Firecast.
And now, the Fire Talkers interview.
Good morning, Adam. How's everything going in your world?
It's going great, Scott. How are you doing?
Oh, can't complain. For everyone who is unfamiliar with you and Endorphin Farms, why don't you go ahead and give us all a little introduction?
Sure. I'm the general manager of Endorphin Farms. We are a co-packer of hot sauce, barbecue sauce, marinades, those types of things. We're located in St. Augustine, Florida. We are strictly co-packer, so we don't have our own brand, but we do co-pack for people all over the country, even as far as Canada, the Caribbean. We currently, at last count, have about 96 co-pack customers. Mm-hmm. And currently do about 320 or so different products.
In about, let's just say, in a month, how many individual products, I should ask, how many different bottles of product do you ship out?
Quite a few. We have primarily three different types of customers. We have a bunch of restaurant customers. We then have some customers that we ship directly to retail outlets, which would be, your supermarkets, your Kroger's, Fresh Markets, Publix. And then we have our gourmet type customers, which we would then ship directly to places like Peppers or Hot Shots and like Pepper Palace. Mm-hmm. Any given month, it's a tremendous amount. Probably, I wouldn't even know how many, but for example, we sent out 5 pallets of products to a restaurant yesterday for one customer. And we probably have 5 or 6 trucks picking up product every day throughout the day. So I don't have an exact number, but it's quite a bit.
Well, let's talk about co-packing in detail right now. Let's say that there is a new sauce manufacturer out there. They're getting to some level of success, and they're looking to expand their inventory. What point would you feel that they would have a need for a co-packer?
It's probably different for different people, but there definitely is a time for a customer where if they're cooking their own product, whether they're renting a commercial kitchen and they're cooking their own product and then they're going out and trying to market the product and they're trying to go out and sell the product, they will hit a point where they say, geez, I'm investing so much of my time now cooking my product that I don't have any time to go out there and sell it or promote it or market it. Mm-hmm. So what I find is a co-packer is a really nice option for them because you hit that point where you say, well, I either need to hire somebody to make my product for me or I need to hire somebody to try to go sell and market my product for me. Your biggest advocate is yourself as far as your product. Nobody knows your product as good as you. So the easiest thing to do is to say, well, let's get a co-packer who can pack it for me, and they can cook it and they can process it, and then they can deal with all the inspections of, here in Florida, we deal with the FDA, the federal, and we also deal with the Florida Department of Agriculture. Mm-hmm. So we deal with all those inspections, and we take care of all that, all the HACCP and, the recall, mock recalls, things like that. We take care of that. So it makes it an easy choice for the customer to then say, okay, you cook it, you make it, you pack it for me safely. Now I can go to these shows. I can go market it. I can approach supermarkets and try to get my sauce in there.
Obviously, a lot of these people, when they first start out, they have full-time jobs. They have spouses, families, everything else going on. Creating something in a local commercial kitchen for them, plus marketing, that would take up all their time. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I imagine at some point, going to a co-packer would just simply make sense. Now, if somebody was interested in contacting you or another co-packer, what are some of the first steps that they should take?
Again, some people, there's some startup, I call them startups. There's some companies that get started that go right to a co-packer right away. And that's pretty ambitious for some, and for some it works beautifully because then you never have to transition your recipe from making it at home to co-packing in a commercial size environment because it will change your recipe a little bit. The easiest way to do it is word of mouth. So whether you're doing farmers markets or hot sauce shows and you see somebody who has a nice packaging and they have a really good product that you like or maybe that's similar to yours, go ask them. Say, hey, who does your stuff? I'm looking for somebody. You can do, your basic searches online, and I can't remember the website. There actually is a website where you can go on, and they list all of the different co-packers by region. So you can see, okay, I'm in Missouri. Mm-hmm. I can go see where there's co-packers and what they specialize in Missouri. And then, of course, Facebook is become, a really good way to reach out and ask people questions or make contact with companies as well.
When like you said, a startup comes to you and they have a sauce recipe, what process do you go about replicating that recipe and testing it out and working with the customer to make sure that recipe is spot on for them?
What our philosophy is in this is we want to know how you make it at home. And that's the first step because we can't do everybody's stuff. We try real hard to, but there are going to be some types of products that I would love to be able to pack that we just can't, because we're limited. As I can't just say, okay, I got 100 gallons worth of sauce. I can't just put it in a blender after it's cooked and blend it down and blend all the seeds out of it. So we are limited. But what we want to know is how you cook your product, and we want a sample of the product so we can see it along with the recipe. And obviously before that, we sign all the legal stuff so I can't run out, start selling it under my own name. Then the most important thing to me is I do a sample.
Yeah.
So I basically take the recipe, I source all the products that I would need to make that recipe, and I cook it in a way that would be indicative of how the production batch is going to turn out. I then send it to the customer for them to look at. I send it to them and say, wow, are we really close? Are we way far off? And then it's got to be a partnership. So we work together with the people to say, how can we get this thing dialed in to get it to a point where you're comfortable with it? To be honest with you, I'd be lying to you if I said, oh, every time we do it, it's exact. It isn't. There are going to be some slight changes, and you have to get the customer comfortable with saying we're going to get it within a very reasonable, acceptable amount of difference. But I don't twist their arm and say, hey, Scott, I know your sauce at home is green and it's turning out orange here. Just roll with it. We'd never do that. We want them to be happy, because the more happy they are with the product, the quicker they sell it, the quicker they come back. But to me, the sample process, working with the customer, sending them a sample that they can taste and have their customer base taste and get feedback, is probably the most important part of it for me.
How about when it comes to labeling, recommending specific sizes and shapes of bottles? What is Endorphin Farms' involvement? How much do you suggest? How much input does the customer have when it comes to all that?
It really varies on customers. Some people already have a bottle picked. Some people don't have any idea, so it depends. It's really on a case-by-case basis. But what we do is we say, hey, I can send you samples of any bottle. Obviously, if it's a hot sauce, there's a certain group of bottles that primarily are going to work. If it's a barbecue, it's thicker viscosity, you're going to look at a wide-mouth bottle. So it depends on the customer, but we either send samples to them. We give them the glass companies that we work with and say, hey, they have online catalogs, so here's the website, go check it out, tell me what you're interested in. Sometimes people actually select bottles by pricing. I tell them I can do the pricing for you in 6 different bottles and then let you pick. Then as far as the labels go, the only thing we really do is we recommend some label companies, and we give them the label size that will work on the bottle they select. But other than that, we try to hook them up with a label company, let them get the labels, and then they send them to me, and I apply them on the bottle.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you guys had printed the labels yourselves.
No, we had done that in the past, and this is actually before I had worked here, but we had invested a lot of money for one customer in particular and printed off a bunch of labels, and then they ended up going out of business, and we're sitting there throwing all these labels in the dumpster. So that's when we switched and said, we'll be more than happy to hook you up with a label company, but what we would prefer is for you to handle buying them. We'll warehouse them and inventory them for you, but we just really want to apply them to the bottle.
Well, I guess it now comes down to the $64,000 question. If somebody is interested in coming to Endorphin Farms, what are the minimum number of bottles that they have to place an order with you? What type of contracts are they looking at as far as using you?
Okay, what we try to do is bottle minimums obviously change between bottle size. So what we try to do is say what we would like to do is do a minimum of 1 kettle of sauce. We really would prefer 2 kettles of sauce, but so many sauce makers now have multiple sauces. So for me to say, okay, you have 6 sauces, I want to do 2 kettles of every sauce, that's a huge financial commitment. So if you have multiple sauces, we like to do at least 1 kettle of sauce. 1 kettle of sauce, if you bottle it in a 5-ounce bottle, is going to yield somewhere around 140 to 150 cases of 5-ounce bottle. And in a case, it's obviously, doing my quick math, 1,800 bottles. If you have a barbecue, say, that's in a 12-ounce bottle, 1 kettle is going to yield somewhere around 60 cases, which is going to be about 720 bottles of sauce.
Okay, so that's generally the minimum. And as far as you know, are those kinds of requirements pretty standard across the board when it comes to all co-packers, or is it something specific to Endorphin Farms?
Pretty specific to us, because I have some relationships with other co-packers, and some of the big co-packers, I mean, their minimums are, like, really big. And then there's some more boutique type co-packers that specialize in smaller batches where it's quite a bit smaller than that. Our niche really in the industry now is we're a little bit bigger than some of the small co-packers, but we're quite a bit smaller than some of the real big ones. So we offer the sauce blending, the creating, the recipe development aspect of what we do is very artisan, small batch style, but our actually filling and bottling line is quite automated. So we kind of blend big and small together, and it enables us to cook the batches in a small kind of rustic way, but then, okay, thumbs up, your sauce is good, then we can bottle it really quickly.
Do you have any general idea from the very first point that a customer contacts you to the time where everything is bottled and boxed up, about how long it takes for the whole process to go through co-packing an order?
I would say if someone reached out to me today and they already have their artwork and their labels done, and we want to go ahead and get them on the schedule, by the time we do the legal stuff, do the samples, order the ingredients, and get a production run, and they have the sauce in their hand, usually about a month. Sometimes if the ingredients aren't as specialized, if it's a very basic, hot peppers, vinegar, salt, it could be maybe as little as 3 weeks. The trend in the industry is really going in a way. It's very gourmet, and some of these ingredients I just can't call up my local food distributor and have 300 pounds of blood oranges delivered in a day. Some of the lead times on some of these ingredients take a while. So probably I'd be safe in saying 4 weeks.
Just out of curiosity, what do you think has been the oddest ingredient someone has ever asked for?
Well, a couple of years ago, a customer came to me and wanted to use fenugreek in his sauce. And at that time, I didn't even know what it was, so I had to look it up. And it's a spice, which was weird, and it's got it supposedly helps men with their libido and stuff like that, which at the time I thought was pretty interesting. But we've run into stuff now, everything, lavender flowers to pomegranate molasses. It's been actually really fun, lychee fruit. I'm trying to think of something now. I get so many requests that it's almost my fruit supplier especially. I keep him on his toes because it's constantly, I need blood oranges, I need lychee fruit. I need, we even had people, looking for the acai berry, I think it's called, all kinds of stuff. It's been a lot of fun, but it keeps you on your toes, that's for sure.
Now, for the prospective clients out there for you guys, they may have questions as far as, what types of stipulations are in the contracts? Would they have to be with you for a certain number of orders, for a specific amount of time? And they might also wonder as far as the recipe being confidential in a typical contract with Endorphin Farms.
All right. Well, basically, the only signed contract we have with anybody with just a regular roster of customers is an NDA non-compete contract, which basically says that this is their recipe. I'm not going to give it to anybody. I'm not going to make it and put my label on it. None of that. Their recipe is totally protected, and they can take legal action against me if they saw something that looked eerily similar out on the market. Other than that, we really only have one customer that we have a contract with, and that's one of our big restaurant accounts, and we have a 2-year contract with them. And that's just basically because they've grown so much, and it requires some ingredients that are hard to source. So I actually have to have growers grow me specific peppers for their product. So there's a lot of work to do this sauce, so we have a contract with them. Other than that, there's really no amount of time. Everything's kind of on a handshake, and we say to you, hey, we want you to be happy with it. So we try to bring them here for their trial run. So say you came out with Scott Roberts hot sauce. We do the sample. We do, the legal part to protect your recipe. And I'd say, okay, you're on the schedule next Thursday. Come on down. We'll set up a nice block of time for you to come. You meet my whole staff. I work with you in the kitchen. We cook up your first batch. You take pictures, you take video, whatever you want to do, sign the first bottle. We try to make it really interactive with the customer and try to really make it a lot of fun, actually. And then we say, we're not going to bottle it till you give me the thumbs up. And if it's not right, we'll dump it in the lake and we'll start over. We totally never want to jam someone with wrong, we don't want to say, hey, sorry, this is your sauce in the kettle, you're taking it. that's not going to do us any good. It's not going to do them any good. So we just really, everything is on a handshake, and we try to do a good job and say, hey, we want you to be happy. And the happier you are, the nicer things you'll say about us, and then we can both grow together.
And what do you personally think about private labeling?
Private labeling is interesting. It's probably a necessity for some people. We do quite a bit of it. We probably right now, I have somewhere around 15 to 20 private label customers, and it's a necessity for some. For some restaurants that we do it for, they basically have like their signature sauce, but then they say, hey, we'd like to have like 4 or 5 sauces on our table or in our restaurant, but we just don't have the time to commit to do the development of the recipe. What do you have to offer private label? So I'll send them some private label sauces we do. And they pick out a couple, and then I say, I'll sell them to you unlabeled, and you can put your label on it, and you can say it's your grandmother's recipe if you want. And we do a lot of that. Then there's some other people that, that are retailers that say, hey, we want to have our own line of sauces, and I sell to them, and they put their labels on it, and they sell it, and I just stay behind the scenes. I know a couple years ago, Joe Levinson he wrote up a little thing about it. There were some big retailers that were entering other people's products, and were winning some awards, and I don't really know how I feel. I mean, if it happens to be a sauce that we make, to me, I get satisfaction in seeing them win the award because it's pretty cool because, I'm not going to have the award here, but we know that we played a part, in them winning something. But it really depends on how the people were trying to sell the product. I don't mind them saying, I tell my customers, I encourage it. Say, this is your recipe. Maybe I developed it for you, but it's yours. And if you ever decide, hey, Adam, you're not doing a good job for me, I'll give them the recipe and they can go. It's for me, again, we're never going to have our own line of sauces. So if I can help somebody come out with the sauce and develop it for them, it's kind of part of the creative process, and I'm pretty cool with it.
Personally, I think whoever creates the recipe should get the credit for it.
Yeah, and there's probably a really good argument for that because it's not easy to make a recipe that's good. It's real easy to make a recipe that's not good. Mm-hmm. But to make a recipe that's good and gets acknowledgement, whether it's, a SCOVY or a Screamin' Mimi or a Golden Chili, is pretty killer. And I've we, Endorphin Farms, we've designed some sauces that have won a lot of those awards. And for me, I sit back and smile and go, that's pretty cool. That's something I came up with. But, I would never go out there and try to steal the spotlight from the people. But I do understand what you're saying. These people are getting awards for somebody else's hard work, and that's certainly a valid argument.
Yeah, somebody could create the recipe at home with their blood, sweat, and tears, work for months, years, whatever it is, developing this product. And I understand the co-packer themselves go through a lot of hard work replicating it, and then they go through bottling it and all that. But I think the initial recipe creator should get the award. Now, if it was somebody else, like a co-packer creating a product and just say, hey, Scott, we'll put, Scott Roberts hot sauce labels on this product, and I end up getting an award for that. Well, I think the credit should go to the co-packers because, they would initially create the recipe.
Yeah, no, and that would be, that'd be pretty cool. I could have some golden chili sitting on my desk.
That's right.
Which would be pretty cool.
Obviously, there are needs people have around the country for co-packers. Do you recommend people around the country? You are based in Florida. Let's just say geographical opposite in the U.S., the state of Washington. You recommend somebody from Washington go with you as a co-packer or to use somebody closer to them geographically?
I absolutely recommend them to come here. There are instances where people contact us and they meet one of our customers and they're like, man, I love their sauce, and they speak so highly of you. And I talk to them and I'm like, holy cow. There was one guy, this is not too long ago, was in Alaska. And I said, you realize the product's going to have to travel through a whole other country before it even gets to you. And with the cost of diesel and freight, it's an uncontrollable variable for me. So there's been instances where I have some pretty good friends at Pat's Sauces and Marinades, and Derek, we talked 2 years about doing this stuff. I'm a huge fan of their products. They're such a cool group of people. But I told them, I said, geographically, your unit cost is going to be too high because you're going to have to send me your labels from California. They're going to have to come all the way to Florida. And then I'm going to have to make the sauce and ship it all the way back across country. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it would just adversely affect the amount you could sell it for. So we can't make everybody's stuff, and geographics are a big part of it. And I really do encourage, hey, ask some people around. I know Danny Cash offers some co-packing services in Colorado, and I usually try to tell people, like for example, if someone was in Washington, like you mentioned, I'd say, reach out to Sam at Zane and Zach. I mean, I know he gets his stuff done with Danny Cash, or at least some of it, but start asking people that also have sauces in those areas where they go to, and try to see who does their co-packing, if they'd be a good fit for you. If someone from Washington wants us to have, picks us to do their stuff, I'd be more than happy to do it. It does kind of stink because the transit, the shipping back and forth, that's a huge, huge cost, and I've missed out on some business. I mean, in the central part of the country out west, simply because I'm just too far away.
And that's why, I kind of recommend, and I've heard nothing but good about Endorphin Farms, but obviously, if it takes a whole lot more money to ship across the country, they should look elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Do you know of any other co-packers, let's just say at the midpoint in the U.S. or West Coast that, people might want to take a look at?
And it's funny because I don't really know any West Coast co-packers like on the coast, California. There's a few around, and I've heard some names, but I don't know any personally, and it's centrally located. I mean, again, I know Danny Cash does a little bit of co-packing. Original Lawn, they're right in your neck of the woods.
Kansas City, yeah.
They're a really good co-packer. K. John's in Ohio, he offers some co-packing services. I know Crazy Uncle Jester, he was doing a little bit of co-packing. In Florida, it's funny, there's actually kind of a little conglomeration of co-packers down here, and depending on what type of product you have, sometimes one is a better fit than another. It's funny, West Coast and in the Northeast area, I'm not really familiar. I don't have personal relationships with any co-packers in those areas, so I wouldn't even know where to begin to tell someone to go there.
Okay. Oh, fair enough. Just kind of give somebody a few ideas there.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, there's so many sauce makers from these geographic locations. So certainly seek someone out that's there and say, hey, where do you get your stuff done? And then if they, say, oh, I get it done at Endorphin Farms, then we'll try to work out the best rate to ship it to you that we possibly can.
Yeah. Your website, I want to go ahead and give you an opportunity to plug that.
Sure. It's www.endorphinfarms.com or bottlemysauce.com. And that's our website, and it's pretty informative. It seems like it's constantly getting reworked. I actually spend a lot of my time on our Facebook page, and there's a lot of customer information on there. We have pictures of our customer sauces and all kinds of things, everything from me eating peppers to bottling sauce to doing crazy karaoke and fantasy football stuff. But that's probably where I have my most interaction with customers, believe it or not, now is through Facebook.
Yeah, it's a great tool. And I'll go ahead and put up links in the show notes to both of your URLs so people could reach you at. And of course, I know you're a big sauce fan, a big chili head yourself. Just real quickly, what are some of your favorite products that you may or may not co-pack?
I am, and it's actually funny, I've been a chili head for a long time, and I've been in the industry as far back as 1994, which a lot of people are like, holy cow, because I used to work for a company called Colito Chili Traders, which some may know. It's pretty old school, but they used to be a hot sauce retailer in the mid-'90s, and they went out of business, but I used to train all their employees on hot sauces and things. So I've been doing this hot sauce thing for a while. But some of the products that I really like, whether I make them or not, I already mentioned Tat sauces and marinades. I think they're great. Their Black Dahlia, I think, is awesome. Heartbreaking Dawn stuff, Johnny, I'm sure there'll be some people, he's only going to plug people he does stuff for. Whether I did his stuff or not, and Johnny will tell you, I was buying his stuff before we co-packed for him.
Yeah.
Huge fan of him. He's super creative. Another guy, Chad Lowcock, Race City Sauce Works.
Oh, yeah,
We do some of his sauces. Believe me, I'd love to be doing them all because he makes some really killer stuff. One product he has come out with, it's called Pure Genius.
Oh, yeah.
To me, one of the best sauces, and I really like hot stuff. The flavor profile of that sauce blows me away. Every time I try it, I'm like, that's just, wow, it's really good. Another company that I don't co-pack for, I'm a big fan of, is Big Fats. Love his stuff. High River Sauces, who, again, we co-pack. I really like his Rogue a lot. I think it's pretty brilliant. And then another one who obviously anybody who's been in the business and has tried anything at all, K. John's obviously has a few sauces that are just crazy good. I'd like to say John and I, we know each other fairly well. Whenever we go to these shows, we talk, and I always go up to his booth and every time I try something and go, wow, that's really good stuff.
Yeah, really good stuff. Well, Adam, I thank you very much for joining me today.
Hey, no problem. Thank you for giving me the call.
Oh, anytime. You provided a lot of insight, and any other time that you want to talk in the future, just let me know.
Yeah, man, that'd be a blast. Thanks so much.
Okay, well, you take care.
You too.
Good morning. And if you're interested in learning more about Endorphin Farms services, you can contact them via their website, and it's reachable at either endorphinfarms.com or bottle-my-sauce.com, or to simply click on the show notes for episode 34. Ken Alexander's website is fieryworld.com, and my main website, my blog, is scottrobertsweb.com. Of course, you can find out more about the Weekly Firecast podcast at weeklyfirecast.com or twoguystalking.com/Firecast. And you can also follow me on the social networks. If you're on Facebook, you can like my page at facebook.com/ScottRobertsWeb. Follow me at Twitter at twitter.com/ScottRoberts. And I'm also on YouTube or Pinterest or LinkedIn or Google+. Just simply do a search for Scott Roberts or Scott Roberts Web, and I'm easily found. I'm not, number 592 in the search results list. And before we close out the show, I wanted to mention everyone who has retweeted or shared a link on Facebook to the previous episode of the Weekly Firecast. Starting off with Facebook, Steve Chambers shared a link. Thank you very much, Steve. Mike Eisenberg of Wicked Cactus Sauce shared the link as well. You can find out more about his great company at wickedcactussauce.com. Derek Riches of bbq.about.com shared a link. And Jim Duffy of refiningfiredchilies.com also shared a link on Facebook. And on Twitter, or as Sean Mundell, his Twitter handle is at tguzzler. Midwest Chili Heads, his Twitter handle is at MWCHS. And Pepper Palace Niagara, a brand new Pepper Palace hot sauce shop up there in Ontario. Their Twitter handle is at Pepper Palace NF. So if you want to get your name mentioned in the next episode of the Weekly Firecast, get your company's name mentioned. A little bit of free advertising. Whenever I post a link to the latest episode of the Weekly Firecast, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, wherever, if you share it, if you retweet it, I will give you a mention. So thanks again for everybody who did that. And that's pretty much for episode 34. Thanks to everybody for listening. Don't forget to send in your feedback through the new contact form at weeklyfirecast.com. So until next time, God bless everyone, and remember, keep it burning.
This has been the Weekly Firecast. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast via iTunes or at the official website at scottrobertsweb.com/weeklyfirecast. The Weekly Firecast is part of the Two Guys Talking podcast network. For more information on other great Two Guys Talking programming, you can go to twoguystalking.com. That's the number 2, guystalking.com. Thanks for listening. And remember, keep it burning.